part 2. Just jumping into it.
All right.
So, recently in Nintendo news, CEO Iwata, coming back from his usual health issues, I guess, basically came back and stated in an interview that Nintendo was interested in moving forward and looking forward to the future of their company, exploring ending region locking.
Yeah.
For their company, which is a pretty huge deal, actually.
What is region locking?
So for all of those at home who don't understand what region locking is, it is essentially a way of managing your property across, areas around the world where essentially the product is only good in a certain area.
Okay.
Nintendo, you'll see that with DVDs and Blu-rays across the world.
Yeah.
So there'll be restricted versions that won't go to Australia because they have those censorship things.
Yeah.
And you'll have certain versions that just don't work. Like if you have one from China, it's not going to work in North America.
Yeah. Okay, I've seen that with DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of like the top loader for Nintendo, where it can play PAL games and Japanese games, but you can't play those on a normal Nintendo?
It's similar to that. So Nintendo was the first one to introduce region locking for video games all the way back with the NES. The way they accomplished that was that the actual cartridges in Japan were smaller than the ones that would fit in an NES in North America. So if you got one from Japan, it just wouldn't work over here.
Well, yeah, because basically the NES or the Japanese, the Famicom, which was essentially to compare the basically equivalent system for what was in North America with the NES, they were essentially very, very different consoles in terms of their exterior and their hardware.
But it was the equivalent, that was the Japanese NES, and
it was the same. Yeah, it was the same. But if you looked at a Japanese Famicom, it wouldn't.
Yeah,
it looks really different.
I thought Famicom was because I've only ever seen them bits and pieces. I didn't know what it was. To me, I thought it was a generic NES platform that someone else had made, so you could play Nintendo games a rip-off console.
The Japanese Famicom was basically as a red and white, console that was a top loader.
I think it was actually red and gold. Or maybe it was a different version that I've seen.
And the controllers were not detachable; they were attached to the console.
Yeah.
And some of them had a special controller where, let's say, you're playing Legend of Zelda. Yeah. I remember this from an AVGN video where there was a little speaker in the controller.
Yeah.
That you can use to kill the Pole's voice character, which was described in the American booklet as being frightened or weak against loud noises.
Yeah.
Whereas we're kind of going, okay, what do you do for that? Do you play the flute? Do you play this? Mm-hmm. No, it was something that was Japan only.
Mm-hmm. But essentially the big thing, though, what should be really interesting is that means everybody everywhere can get all the games that Nintendo makes for all their consoles, which would be really, really cool. Mm-hmm. So that means everybody gets more games. Yeah. And there's never that situation where this game's only going to Europe, so that's not coming to North America, or it's only in Japan, which is the most common case. It's going to be everywhere. But the problem is that they aren't sure if they want to do it because it's really, really expensive, because that means they have to pay for localizing every game that is on a Nintendo console at that point.
Now, I'm curious, is that going to change, let's say, 10 or 20 years from now? Is that going to actually change the value of the games if there's more copies out there, or if there are more copies per region?
I don't think it's going to change the value so much, because it's still going to be the American version, this version. And I think that'll still be just mainly dependent on the individual markets, because you do have Nintendo of America and Nintendo of, Europe or wherever. I'm not sure if that's actually...
I'm not even sure how much it would cost necessarily to localize each game, because especially with the access of everyone's kind of got an internet connection now. Basically, if you buy a game disc from Japan and it's Japanese, you change it to English, you just download the language.
Localization, though, doesn't just include translation, though. It's a lot of, you have to just work things out so that culturally it's understandable as well. Because historically, a lot of localization involves trying to make things more culturally relevant.
Eat your hamburgers, Apollo.
Exactly. Traditionally, a lot of localization would involve taking very Japanese games and turning a lot of the Japanese cultural aspects and just warping the game a lot so it was seen more American, so that it was more understandable. So North American audiences
I'm just going to throw it out there that I don't think they've ever done that great of a job. Most Japanese games I've seen, I'm just I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
I know, I've been playing through Chrono Trigger recently, and I know back in Japan, Chrono's element was supposed to be holy or something.
Yeah.
But when it first got translated to America for the Super Nintendo, it just got turned into generic Lightning. Yeah. Now with the DS remake, it's just light-based kind of thing, or holy-based.
Yeah, well,
there's a lot of censorship.
One really common example I always remember hearing was a lot of people were complaining about like it seemed odd they were doing like a fairy type in the new like the Pokemon X and Y when that was coming out, but a lot of people pointing out that in Japanese the translations for the direct translations for the words used for dark and fairy type were actually like good and evil, which was the whole idea. That's why they introduced it.
Evil Pokemon!
That makes so much sense, because my brother always bitched about the fairy type thing forever. Yeah. He still bitches about it.
But that was sort of meant to be the idea, is that was just the opposite aspect, right? So.
You have good Pokemon trainers using evil Pokemon. You've had Team Rocket or something using good Pokemon.
I don't know if it's necessarily meant to be like that, but it's kind of like, you have malicious spirits and,
Yeah, it's just like...
helpful spirits.
Malicious spirits in your Pokeball.
Like, just like in the language, it makes more sense because they're more like naturally occurring antonyms, right?
Yeah, I suppose I can't help but think of putting like something like Samara from the Ring into a Pokeball. She's an evil type.
The Pokemon may be good. The trainer doesn't have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh. Well, I don't know. I'm personally for region-free games. Like how many times have people been like disappointed because a game that they really want to have just doesn't get isn't brought over?
Yeah,
Europe,
exactly.
You got Phoenix Wright. I think it was like the Ace Attorney Investigations that didn't get ported a lot of the times.
Something like that. Yeah.
I know, like Europe themselves, they get shafted a lot when it comes to game releases.
Yeah.
Or just in general, like release dates for certain countries are different, and like if Japan gets it like a month before us, people will pay to have their pen pal in Japan buy the game and bring it and mail it over to get it in 2 weeks rather than
I still feel like though even with region free it's still probably going to be delays outside of Japan for what are primarily Japanese games being developed for Nintendo consoles, because localization still is going to take time. But I think it's more just meant to be a guarantee that everybody's going to get it, rather than whether or not.
To be fair, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to get it. It just means everyone can play it. So it's like they may only be releasing the game in Japan.
No.
But people can still request it shipped over to them.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. But I think the main idea of region locking those is because they have their regions where they sell their games, but it just means that they won't be like, this game is for these regions. It's just everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And it'll be sold in all those regions rather than,
Would this include, like when it comes to translation-wise, I know, like, if it's pure text, you can translate the languages, but would this include, like, voice acting at all? Or would you have
most likely. It would depend on the game, but I would imagine, because like any other game, they do.
I can't help but think of Spanish Mario now.
Could happen. Well, to be fair, I mean, it's not that there's a lot of really intense voice acting in a lot of Mario games.
Well, it's also like, as I mentioned earlier, especially with the ability to get updates and DLC like instantly.
Oh man, that's gonna be lagged.
It'd be like, worst case scenario would be like the game. You get the game, but it's in Japanese, but there's an English content patch, so you download the English content, and then it writes itself into the game.
That could work, yeah.
Because it's basically now. Games
although I feel like
they're updated in the first day.
I feel like North America, though, will probably still just get like an English version.
It's quite possible, but I mean,
it's a pretty large market.
Did you just break the chair?
I think it's all right.
Well,
okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Can I rage about Ubisoft quickly?
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ready?
Ubisoft, if you're gonna not put games on Steam or other distribution sites, make sure your system and services don't fucking suck.
Boom. Done.
There. I'm happy now.
All right. Well, now
to clarify for anyone who hasn't seen the headline, Ubisoft recently announced that all of their upcoming AAA releases, including things like, say, probably future Watch Dogs sequels or the upcoming Assassin's Creed, fucking whatever subtitle it is, starts with an R, whatever one of the R's.
I thought it was Unity.
Oh, it's Unity.
Yeah.
It is. I was wrong. I was making jokes for jokes'
You are wrong.
Swear to God.
Yeah.
Swear to God.
Essentially, they're putting it on. They're putting it on Uplay, but Uplay's a fucking mess, and it barely works, and it's a terrible system. And they're like, no, we're gonna put all of our games on it. And I'm like, no, make sure your service works.
I like that they're kind of like trailing off, like we're gonna be like EA, but like that didn't exactly work.
You don't want to be like EA.
You know what they should make? You know what they should make next? A city simulator. And make it always online. That would be... I think it's going to work wonderfully.
And then have it fucking suck.
It wasn't,
and be
honestly, the
fucking
worst part of that game
broken.
wasn't even the fact that its online features were broken, which they were. It was the fact that mechanically the game was broken.
Yeah. The more you know.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to be a bit of a huge nerd, anime nerd, otaku here. Bring up... yes.
Anu.
Shut up. Footstomper here is about the only one who doesn't even really care about anime. So he's like,
I told you last time, I like animes.
You can't even pronounce it right.
I've watched some.
It's okay, you don't have to like anime. Like everything, the majority of it is shit.
It's always like, there's a few I've really liked, and then...
Yeah.
Diabolic lover.
And then she's
Don't
like,
even
you're
bring
so
that up.
mainstream. And I'm like, because the mainstream's good. This is good
terrible.
stuff.
There's some
Is it
mainstream
like, I don't know,
stuff
the
that
ones
is
that-
I'm just
terrible.
like, not to be super hipster, but a lot of mainstream anime is terrible.
I don't know, the ones I've
Okay.
watched are like Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan,
Okay.
Space Dandy. What was that other one that I watched? Crap, name is escaping me. I had to watch all of Heaven's Lost Property because my fiance loved it.
Oh.
And there was one other one I watched, and I watched a bit of Knights of Sidonia as well.
Yeah, that's where I was going to bring out the
Actually,
moment.
speaking of,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. The creators recently started selling really cool 3D models of like the characters and the mechs and stuff like that. Normally, what that would entail is like, oh, here's like cool figurines and stuff like that. No, since this show is actually done with CG, like graphics stuff like that, rather than traditional like 2D art style, they're actually selling the render files from the show that they used, so everybody can just have the 3D models on their computer as like the actual files they used to make the show, which is really, really cool, because that basically means people, well, one, they can animate their own things and just use the properties stuff kind of almost like you would like Source Filmmaker or something like that. The other really cool thing that comes to mind when I see this is people using those files to build 3D printing blueprints for their own figurines.
I could see something like that working out to their advantage. I mean, you have some people making videos of these models that they have on their computer, and you put it on something like YouTube. People comment, where'd you get these from? Oh, it's from Knights of Sidonia, and so the anime now has promotion through its fan base.
Well, yeah, but my main thought when I see this, because it's really cool, and Knights of Sidonia was a cool series, but my main thing is just that imagining other forms of media doing this, like video games and stuff like that, where you can just buy the properties and use those, and then people can just 3D print their own figurines and stuff, or other cool merchandising and use it to make really cool stuff.
yeah, I was gonna say, just sorry, not to interrupt, just like on that sort of topic, thinking about like if you had like the model for like Toon Link and you could just print it out and fold it out and have like a little paper Toon Link on your desk. I think that would be cute.
Paper Mario.
Yeah. I would do Paper Mario is already 2D, but I mean, like, I just think there's a lot of market.
Well, even then, not even like just 2D, like just have a 3D printer, and then there you go, you have a little Toon Link figurine right there for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it'd be interesting because you're essentially opening up a door to open source modding of shows, where you can essentially make your own show now.
Which I think is fun because, like, look at all the things that are out there that people do with Source Filmmaker.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Some of that stuff is amazing, and like even when Valve puts out their own actual real videos, I just think it looks like another video because I've seen ones where it just moved so smoothly.
Well, it's like with video games, you open it up, you give your source files to modders. Like the most famous company for it's Bethesda, where their games gain, like if you play a Skyrim on the Xbox, it's a good game. You'll get like probably 100+ hours out of it.
Yep.
On the PC, you can easily get 1,000+ hours of just the good mods.
I hear that.
So it's like you let people mod it, like Shogun or the Total War franchise does it too, or I don't know, but I think the newest Rome still did it as well. But Empire, the one like 2 games ago they had made. People have modded that to a full World War I game now, instead of it being in the Napoleonic era. So
I heard about that one, yeah.
I'm seriously considering reinstalling it and getting it, because I'm like, I want to fight with like big trenches and like have the tanks rolling across. Because it's just modders just go nuts, and you gain so much more out of it by letting people go nuts.
Modding is one of the best gifts that that PC gamers can have. Like, it's just, there's so much freedom to, like, have so many antics out there.
Well, to even go beyond that, just the idea of, like, well, to some degree anyways, open source development, even right there, of just software. is probably pretty weak. But I don't want to say just totally open source software, because you still have to buy the games. I can understand needing to generate revenue, because the major distributors of these software types, video games or anything else like this, they need some way to fund this and create the software that's used for it and to make the stuff. But
there are drawbacks for stuff like that. Like you take a game that you're very fond of, you try to make your own. I don't know if you have the source modeling, but not from like the actual people that you get it from. You could receive like stuff like cease and desist orders. Like I'm trying to think of an example: Chrono Trigger Crimson Echoes or something.
Oh yeah.
They were about like 95% done, and then Square Enix came over and gave them a cease and desist about it.
Well, see, that's my kind of thing where I'm thinking video games and you start moving more towards like open source software development, where like you'll have like distributions of like the Linux operating system, and it basically starts with like a few core distributions, but then the development will fork, and you'll get new versions that are unique from the original one. But still, you build on a lot of the source code, a lot of things the original had. But I think this would be really, really good for video games, because you can take, like, League of Legends and Dota 2 are huge examples of this, because they were originally started as mods of Warcraft 3.
I don't think League of Legends was, just Dota.
No, I think they both were, if I'm correct.
Like, I'm pretty sure, I know Dota was a mod for Warcraft 3, and then they took a lot of that, and Valve hired the guys who made it, and then they made Dota 2.
But I'm pretty sure that's
League
what
of Legends was.
Pretty sure that's what League of Legends did too, though, because I remember reading that they were both. They were basically both mods, yeah.
They're basically the same.
Well, yeah, because that's why they were so similar anyways, and a lot of them had the same characters between the two.
Yeah.
But it was like a... But that's my main thing, though, is that they can take these games that already exist and build upon them, and look at how successful League and Dota become, especially League. Like, they're basically the head of the entire esports thing right now. Like, what was it, ESPN 2 or 3 or something is going to be doing their first actual video broadcast of like a huge league tournament.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah, like on actual network television.
I want to see like guys who do sports commentary trying to do league commentary. They'll just be like, what's going on? Is this a good thing?
I imagine they would hire people.
Like, hopefully they'll get people who know what's going on, but I could just see like almost like cutting back to like your main guys and just being like, well, that was a thing. Just having no idea what's going on.
Watch the little character move forward and throw lightning.
Yep.
Things are happening on the screen.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps up for this episode.
Yep.
Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And we'll see you all next episode.
Yeah. Have fun. Doing what you do.
Thanks for joining us.
InvisibleFly.
Nanashi.
Yep. And this has been Super Soren.
I'm Foot Stomper.
And
Have
we'll
a good night.
See you later.